Hello, I'm Benjamin Hart, and this is the news. So I did another video over on the main integrity channel where we talked about passports to get your BTS card. We talked about that now driving licenses are going to go online. And in that, I referenced this video I'm making right now and I'm putting up right now. So the folks that came over from the main integrity channel, welcome to the news service. Please subscribe. We'd be very much, I'd like to keep doing some of this stuff. That said, let's jump in here and why I started this. Well, I started it, I got into it, I'm not going to reread that part, where now in order to not only get a Rabbit card, a BTS, or an MRT card, you've got to show your passport, which in the past never was required. There was never an ID requirement. I'm really, it gets disconcerting and discouraging as the years have gone by out here, frankly, the 18 I've been here, to just really watch the incremental, albeit sometimes small things, but just erosion of just the kind of basic, whatever you want to call it, walking around in the same sense of the word, walking around money, sort of walking around liberty, just the right to be left alone. You know, what I got into back during COVID is negative liberty or negative freedom as opposed to positive freedom. I talked about that. You know, the right to be left alone. You know, it's like, what, really, I gotta be honest, you know, I don't think that there's any exigent need from where I sit for there to be IDs associated with Rabbit cards. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I'm sure they can come up with all kinds of good reasons, but whatever. Meanwhile, over at Bangkok Post, bangkokpost.com, article is titled Land Transport Department Now Online License Renewals to Allow Online License Renewals. Department of Land Transport, in collaboration with the Ministry of Public Health, is upgrading its services standards to allow motorists age under 55 to renew their driving licenses online. So let me just quote further. Applicants aged under 55 whose licenses have not expired for more than 1 year will be able to apply electronically without traveling to a transport office for a physical fitness test. Now, as I said, even in that other video, yeah, you know, they talk about this stuff like it's some grand improvement, but if you've been here as long as I have, and I know there are people that have been here longer, but I'm sort of on this weird cusp where I got to see and that's the reason for the thumbnail, by the way, that's why now. It's from The Sopranos, where Silvio Dante is gambling and this kid is trying to sweep up underneath him and he flips out and he's like, why now? Why are you doing this now? Sort of thing. That's kind of my thinking. But in the same vein as The Sopranos, where sort of Tony at the beginning of the show, I think it's in episode 1, the pilot, where he says, you know, my dad, it was like he was starting from the ground up. I feel like I came in at the end, you know? And I often kind of feel like that sometimes with especially the old Thailand, what I will call the pre-2009 Thailand. To my mind and my brain, the airport shut down. Things were never quite the same, although I am seeing tourism just at an anecdotal level. I am seeing tourism. It feels like it felt prior to the airport shutdown in 2009. That's all I'll say there. But as far as just this, you know, that Thailand, just the free and easy, really do whatever you want, you know, if you need, you know, get a BTS card, pay cash. Okay, you know, by the way, it's been 18 years or more with that system, and I haven't seen anybody, you know, I haven't seen any major negative fallout from people being able to do their BTS cards that way, but whatever. That said, this is the line that really got my hackles up. The measure will reduce the need to travel and better meet the demands of the digital age. Well, one, what are we talking about with this digital age? And who is begging for this? You know, nobody. And that's how you can tell. It's these nonsense, I call it sort of passive voice programming. Meet the demands of the digital age. What demands? Humanity hasn't fundamentally changed since we've gotten smartphones. You could argue we've gotten dumber. You could argue our attention spans have gone down, but that's about it. So this is sort of my jumping off point for this video. I was talking about that purely within the realm of expatdom because it pertained to, driving licenses, it pertained to BTS cards. Meanwhile, again, with driving licenses, we could have just as easily met the demands of the digital age with lifetime driver's licenses. Or I get that because we had those when I first got here. That's another one I remember. I wasn't able to get one because it ended like the year before I got here, and you couldn't get them anymore. Now, I can understand the argument that, hey, lifetime driving licenses, yeah, that's not great. How about you just issue them until people are 55? You want to meet the demands of the digital age, or is this all to just keep us continually jumping through digital hoops on screens instead of dealing with real people and getting things actually done? But no, we just get into feedback loops of sort of non-accomplishing tasks. That's the only way I can describe it. It's just, I went onto a portal and I did all this stuff so that I can then go do this next thing. What exact value is added by that portal, other than lack of accountability for the bureaucracy and less work for the bureaucracy because you're now plugging in the data that they were once paid to do, but they get to keep their jobs because they're basically on lifetime sinecures. Yeah, and just go pound sand, other people. Again, there's not a lot of good reason for some of this. Meanwhile, and this is why I put this video over here on the news channel, because this, to my mind, is a pretty good example of where we're sort of more in the news category rather over in like legal stuff. And again, I like to keep, I hesitate to call the main channel sterile. It's far from it, especially after coverage we did over this summer. But I never wanted it to veer quite over into this type of news op-ed type of stuff exactly, even though I started doing that. So that's the reason for this channel. That said, again, Bangkok Post, bangkokpost.com, article is titled, "Students Ask Court to Annul General Election." Quoting directly, "A heated debate has erupted online over barcodes and QR codes printed on election ballots, with voters questioning whether they could be used to trace who voted for whom, potentially violating constitutional guarantees of ballot secrecy. The EC earlier defended the use of the barcodes and QR codes on ballot papers, saying the features were lawful security measures used to combat forgery, manage ballot stocks, and prevent mismatches between voter numbers and ballots used." Okay, couple of things there. Give me 1 second here. Couple of things there. First off, getting into the election, I know that there's some challenges based on this barcode stuff and QR. My personal opinion, and it's purely my personal opinion, I think this election was pretty reflective of the national will overall. Now were there discrepancies or something? Yeah, I didn't say that. I'm not saying yeah. Were there discrepancies? Yes, possibly. I don't know. If there were, yeah, my personal belief is that should be sussed out. We need to figure that out. But that said, again, I do think that the outcome was pretty well in line with, I think, what most people wanted here. Okay. Now, the point of the video and the title of the video, so now everybody cares about QR codes and barcodes and all of these problems. I've been talking about this forever, and it is a problem. And I'm starting to think digitization itself is the problem. It's sort of an outsourcing of our fundamental lives, like everything, or the substantive part of our lives. It's one of the reasons, and BWH Club folks and folks from the paid news service, I am going to get to a video for you guys explaining what's happening moving forward. I'm sorry I'm a week late on this. It's just been a heck of a time. But analog, in my mind, I lived in an analog world and I've come to live in a digital one. Analog was better. Okay, there were more people employed. They were employed in real jobs. And you can even say, well, it was a paper world and that, it's less efficient and blah, blah. Yeah, less efficient for who? At this point, what white-collar jobs much else out there are there? There's not any in any clerical sense. So, I mean, who's benefiting from digitization to begin with? Because we already know that there's issues with, it puts people out of jobs. So, and then at the same time, all this is being used to do is track traces, put us through bunches of hoops, and now it's even possibly gotten over into issues pertaining to voting, at least here in Thailand. And again, it's all for what? Meanwhile, going over here to Andrew Torba, based Torba over to X, 4chan, today's news 3 years ago, but he's talking about a breaking news article from Raw's Alert that says, Meta has patented an AI that can keep a deceased person's account active and running, posting, messaging, and video calling by using their behavior from past data. And what Torba's talking about with respect to the, 3 years ago's news today comes from a posting on 4chan, quoting directly. We'll try to go ahead and put all this on screen. I'm a Meta insider working on Project Lazarus. We're building an AI that can take over a deceased person's social media accounts and continue making relevant posts as if that person is still alive. First question, who decided that was necessary? Like that's one that I'm kind of curious on. Like, it's a little macabre. If somebody had said, well, I invented the script that allowed people to, turn a dead person's page into a condolences page or something. Yeah, okay. But you're creating, you're designing an AI that can impersonate dead people? Okay. This includes age-progressed photos, interacting with other people's content, and everything else needed so that person continues on in the digital realm after physical death. We were originally told this would be a service offered to people struggling with the loss of loved ones and people who had missing children. Seemed like a decent idea. Really? I mean, did you ever see the movie Pet Sematary? I'm sure that first part where they go and bury the little kid in the pet cemetery seemed like a decent idea until it comes back as a zombie. I'm not making light of this exactly, but it's along the same lines. It's pretty macabre. That said, quoting further, things are getting weird now, and I'm having second thoughts about what this is actually going to be used for. The AI is extremely capable of impersonating people. It doesn't take as much initial input as one might think to train the AI how a certain person interacts with the digital world. It's very convincing. An entire island of people could go missing, and with little to no downtime, the AI could take over all their social media, and the world wouldn't have a clue that life wasn't just continuing as usual. A lot of the project is becoming more compartmentalized. Well, that's compartmentalized, that's a buzzword, isn't it? Things have taken a dark turn, it feels like. They've forbidden communication between people working on different things. Something isn't right, and I don't know what I should do. I'm not going to post any personally identifiable information, but I will try to answer questions that won't expose my role within the project. Yeah, and interesting that came up. But all of this is leading to just a really bad place, And again, so now you could die and Facebook's still going to be posting stuff as if you're not dead? I'm not saying that's what they will do, but they designed this, presumably this person worked for Meta. They said it came from Meta. It's apparently been patented by Meta. So what are they going to use that for if not that? I mean, again, I don't want to be called a Luddite. I'm not against technology. Look, we all benefit from, the near rapid speed you can get certain things done that once took a great deal more time. But, in so doing, I was just watching the series The Americans. I pop that in every once in a while, the one about the Soviet spies in the United States during the 80s. And I was watching one of the early episodes where the very attractive one of the just attaché consular gals that's in the consulate is talking to the ambassador, and she's making tea with the packets, and he gets mad at her and, shows her how to make it. And he says, I think the exact phrase, he said, shortcuts are the root of all evil. And it was an interesting kind of a take on that, mostly because I have kind of affinity for that show. I went to Russia in '99. I'm not going to say I'm a Russophile, but I find their culture interesting. I've read a lot about the Eastern Roman Empire, the Ottomans, and then the Russians, the Russian Empire, after the Tsars, the revolution in 17. I've got a pretty decent working knowledge, albeit, layperson's knowledge on the history of that place. And the one thing, and I hate communism like cancer, but if you watch that show and you watch a movie called Citizen X, I think does a pretty good job. It was made for HBO back in the late 90s. They do a pretty good job of showing that the old USSR, you forget the communism stuff, and I'm not saying that stuff was good, bad, and different, but it was very much an analog society, and it had a kind of an analog mindset. Now, it was also the times, but their thinking was not about progress for convenience, I guess. It was more about sort of progress in a grander sense. Now, I don't agree with anything they said ideologically, so don't get me wrong. But the point I'm trying to make is that whole just little moment in that show where he says, shortcuts are the root of all evil. That's where we went with digital. We made digital like a shortcut for everything. And as a result, now people are, I just don't think it's going to be a world we want to live in. As we've seen with this banking thing, they said it was supposed to make everything easier. It's made everything harder. They cap out how much money you can move around. They make you come in and have to take photos and move your head up and down and your eyes like this and you're this like that and you're whatever. Why? Why should my digital imprint be captured by your bank? It really, it's a brave new world. And you know what? It's not a brave new world. It's 1984. It's wrong. There's nothing brave about it, in fact. It's almost like, there's, to quote the Dr. Shepard case from my old evidence class, the reverberating clang. There's the reverberating clang from COVID in all of this, but it's a kind of moral cowardice where people want to just outsource all this tyranny, and then they think that they're going to live in like a utopia, and it's the opposite. We live in a world where you can communicate and interact with no one other than through a screen that creates nothing but extra hurdles to get something done that you used to be able to walk up to a counter, talk to somebody, pay a fee, and walk away with whatever it was you needed to get done that day. What are we doing here? I mean, that's my big question in all of this. That said, it's interesting. Plug in the Pancake Palace again. Just viewers, FYI, my better half and I set up a restaurant here in downtown Bangkok, and we've got breakfast anytime. We've got American diner style food. We've got English breakfast. It's not just American breakfast. And we've also got hamburgers, cheeseburgers, chili bowls, I think the best buffalo wings in the country. Come on down to Pancake Palace if you're interested. Also, for those who are interested in bwh.club, those of you who are on the paid news service, I'm going to be putting out a video to you guys first. I want to get you guys signed up, or you folks. Not all of you are men, I'm aware of that. But I will get a video out to the paid news subscribers first so we can get that going. But yeah, it pertains to living or trying to maintain some privacy in this digital dystopia we've all seemed to have backed into one way or the other. That being said, overall, I'll be keeping you updated with further news like this on this channel as time goes by. So please stay tuned. Again, stay tuned to this channel. Stay tuned to us over on Integrity Legal Thailand. But thanks for watching.